Hello everyone. This is a two-part video I'm calling Emotions 101, and the first video is about how we get disconnected from our emotional guidance system. And then the second video will be about how to reconnect to our emotional guidance system so that we can experience freedom and clarity and authenticity and peace. So first of all, how does it happen that we get disconnected from our innate emotional guidance system? Well, I got a little helpful thing back here. So, Emotions 101. Often, if you're like me, you've been trained to suppress or shame. Shame is what we use to suppress or escape uncomfortable emotions. So, in our enculturation, socialization, domestication, whatever you want to call it, we've been trained to suppress our innate emotions with things like boys don't cry, don't be a baby, right? Or girls don't show anger, be a good girl. Or being afraid is weak, don't be a chicken, don't be a wuss, right? We get all of these messages growing up that our emotions are bad and are to be shamed, suppressed. Don't feel them, don't show them. Now, sometimes we might escape uncomfortable pain and emotions because it doesn't feel good to us. So we can have all kinds of addictions, which could, include anything from eating food to drinking, drugs, shopping, sex, social media, whatever makes us feel good, right? And these are brilliant strategies because in the moment they take away this painful feeling. But it can lead to us feeling numb and kind of being in a state of denial in which we don't experience positive emotion either. Now, our uncomfortable emotions, I would define as fear, grief, and anger. Fear, you could also call anxiety. Grief, you might call sadness. Anger, you might call frustration. There's different nuances to them. But mainly these three, fear, grief, and anger. Some people will include guilt as well. But what happens is this is an external training of us, right? But we end up internalizing it, and we no longer need others to shame us. We do it to ourselves. And the way we do that, let me pan out here, is there's a difference. I want to make a distinction between primary emotions and secondary emotions. So our primary emotions, that fear, grief, and anger, is something that's really out of our control. It might be caused by a very real pain or loss or a very real threat to us, or maybe a painful thought, but it comes into our body and it really happens to us. That is our emotional guidance system. But because we've been trained to suppress it, or we can't handle the discomfort of it, how do we suppress it and shame it? It's amazing. We actually use emotion to suppress our emotion. So our secondary emotions are used to shame and suppress our primary emotions. The good news is these are actually in our control, which we'll talk about next time. But we do this to survive as a child, to survive in our cultural context. Now, examples of this, you might have experienced this, is you might have fear of your anxiety. So if any of you have experienced a panic attack, you will know that you then begin to be afraid of the fear, afraid of the anxiety, right? So it becomes this huge ball of anxiety where you start with some anxiety, but then you become afraid of the anxiety and it just grows and grows and grows. Same thing with shame. You might feel shame, but then you feel ashamed of your shame because now I'm turning inward and I'm not out with other people, and so I'm ashamed that I feel shame, and you just end up in this spiral toilet bowl of shame, and it just adds and accumulates and gets worse and worse. So this strategy of using one emotion to suppress or control the other emotion actually doesn't work. It actually increases and produces more and more discomfort. So, you can have any combination here. You might feel shame about your anger, or you might feel angry that you have anger, or afraid of your anger, right? Or you might feel angry that you're so sad, and why am I so sad? Why do I keep being sad? Right? So instead of just accepting that you're feeling fear, you're feeling anger, you're feeling sadness, you are resisting it, trying to control it in order to protect yourself. But there's a great cost to this. The cost is a disconnection from your inner compass and a loss of freedom, authenticity, and peace. So when we use those secondary emotions to shame and suppress the primary emotions, we lose connection with this very valuable inner compass that is showing us what to go toward and what to go away from. And it's a huge cost to pay. So we do this to survive in childhood, but as we get to be adults, it costs us quite a bit. So in the next video, I'm going to explain how to reconnect to your emotional guidance system.